Bonjour. Je m'appelle Smitty Bourbon Jagerman Jensen. And welcome to episode 252 of the TEW 28 Challenge Run. This is going to be SmackDown for the week of 3 of May 2022. And we're coming off Judgment Day. Judgment Day's finally in the rearview mirror. We're on our way to Money in the Bank. All systems go. Without any further ado, let's jump straight into the show. We start with a recap of everything that went down at Judgment Day before Roman Reigns comes out, so we get a good 6 minutes of him walking to the ring. But we can probably actually recap the whole pay-per-view, maybe even rerun the whole pay-per-view in the time it takes him to get to the ring. And then he gets to the ring and is like, Excel Center, acknowledge me. Acknowledge me because I'm standing here and I'm still the WWE Champion like I said I would. I told y'all I was gonna smash Keith Lee. And what did I do? I smashed Keith Lee. But here's the thing, Paul. I look around SmackDown, I smashed everybody. All of the top guys on this roster, smashed them. There's nobody left for me to face. But apparently I've got to wrestle a Money in the Bank, defend my championship at Money in the Bank. But there's nobody on this roster that I've yet to beat. Your past superstars, your present, the future, all of them fall in line. I feel like I'm getting bored saying the same thing every week, but there's no competition here. Nobody's stepping up to the tribal chief. No, sir. And that's when we're interrupted by the music of United States Champion Braun Breaker. He comes to the ring, and he's like, you say you've beaten everybody here on SmackDown, Roman? But you've not beaten me. So how about it? You want someone for Money in the Bank. There's somebody on this show who's on just as much of a good run, if not a better run than you are. And that's me, the United States Champion, Braun Breaker. And Roman's like, I like you, kid, you know. You got a bright future here in the business, you know. People are already looking at you to take over once the tribal chief goes to Hollywood, and God knows that could be a lot sooner than y'all think if nobody gets me any competition around here. And then the sound of Boogs is shredding a guitar interrupts, and he says, my name's Rick Boogs, and he's hit a rock with Nakamura. And Shinsuke comes out, and he's like, Roman, I acknowledge you as the man that I will beat to finally become WWE Champion. And Roman's like, well, good evening to you too, Shin. How have you been? You've had a couple of days off. I assume you went down the beach, went surfing, because that's all you'd like to do, really, because you haven't been a viable threat in this company for about 4 years. But you think you can come and step to the tribal chief? Shinsuke's like, I don't just think, I know. And he shoves Roman, and Roman's like, okay, I'm gonna let it off. Then unfamiliar music hits, and out comes, of all people, Lindsay Dorado and Cynthia Crespo. And she's like, right, I know, it's Lindsay Dorado. He's like, not in anybody's mind as a challenger for the WWE Championship, but here's the thing, why shouldn't he be? Grand Metalik left Death from Above. He left this man high and dry to go and play around with Legado de la Sombra. Farewell to him, good riddance. Because Lindsay's going to be the real star of the duo here, and that's going to be because he's going to have me by his side all this time. And what better way to cement that we mean business here on SmackDown without Malik than to have my boy Lindsay Dorado step in and win the WWE Championship. And Roman just sort of laughs. He's like, really? We're this low down now. I've smashed everybody. That Lindsay's coming out here thinking he can step to the tribal chief. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll give him a chance. If he can prove that he can hang with the tribal chief, or even people that can try and prove they can hang, then maybe I'll consider it. Then the lights go out, and they come back on. All of the House of Black are in the ring. They don't attack anybody, they're just there. And Alistair's got a mic. He gets in Roman's face, and he's like, I'm next, Roman. And Pierce comes. I didn't put him on screen because I forgot. But he comes out, it's like, enough of this, right? It seems that a lot of you have taken exception to the fact that Roman Reigns thinks he's beating everybody here on SmackDown. But I'll tell you what I'm gonna do about it. Money in the Bank, 5 weeks' time, including tonight. But it's never too soon to start advertising your big-time matchups, your WWE Championship matchups. So here's what we're going to do. Main event tonight, Fatal 4-Way, Lince Dorado. I'm going to give you a chance to prove yourself. This is the line of opportunity around here. You want to make a statement, you want to try to prove yourself, you're in the Fatal 4-Way match. You're facing off against Braun Breaker, Nakamura, and Aleister Black. The winner goes to Money in the Bank to face Roman Reigns for the WWE Championship. It is official. So there's our main event tonight. But we know what our opening match is. The same match our opening match always is. Because we haven't announced Seth Rollins' match. He's taking on Johnny Gargano for a spot in Money in the Bank. Oh, but first, I forgot because I have another segment and not a match. Kayla's backstage with Legado de la Sombra. And then Metalik there. And Kayla's like, you know, last Sunday, Grand Metalik joined Legado de la Sombra, but unfortunately, Zelina, you still came up short against DIY and Candice. She's like, I know, Kayla, thank you. Lindsay's out there thinking he's going to be the star of this group, but tell me what, that's not good face because Grand Metalik is already a bigger deal than Lindsay Dorado by simply rubbing shoulders with Andrade. You see? Last Sunday was a hiccup. Judgment Day will never happen again. I hope Johnny, this thing between us and Johnny Ciampa and his little wife, that's done until next week when Raquel has to face Candice LeRae in a Money in the Bank qualifying match. But that'll be the last match between us, and once Raquel plants that little rat into the ring, then we can move our focus to Money in the Bank and Legado being in Money in the Bank, which does beg the question whether or not Andrade or Grand Metalik will get the opportunity to be in Money in the Bank, because apparently we already have 3 qualifiers set. Apparently we're not high enough on Adam Pearce's radar, but that 4th match to qualify the 4th member of SmackDown, you bet your ass I'm going to try and get my pull and get Andrade and Metalik in that match. I don't care how many other people they've got to beat, because they can do it, because they are Legado de la Sombra. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, they say. And we're stronger than ever. Oh my goodness gracious. I knew this would be good, but I didn't know that it would be the best match I've ever had. I knew it's Seth Rollins, I knew it was going to be blue, but I didn't expect this to be the best match of the whole save so far. Maybe even the match of the year come the end of the game. In a 98 rated match. Seth Rollins and Johnny Gargano go 20 minutes, and Seth picked up the win with a curb stomp to head to Money in the Bank. He gets a 96, Gargano gets a 92, and the match gets a 98. A 98 rated match. 98 rated match. Seth's going to Money in the Bank. And I'm glad that this was incredible, because that will play into the story later on in the show that I have planned out. Like, this match was in my head canon a barn burner that went over. It's a lot of time, but nobody wanted to cut it short. So, speaking of cutting it short, that's what Bayley did back at Judgment Day. She came up short against Cora Jade. Not against Cora Jade, against Dakota Kai. Cora was at ringside to try and help her, but she was told not to screw anything up, and by not doing anything, she screwed it up. Bayley sort of looking frustrated on the locker room, just sat on a chair. And then we get the comedic pan, and Cora sort of awkwardly just sat next to her on her phone. They're not speaking to each other. And she's like, look, I know. And Bayley's like, I know you don't want to hear me speak. Then Bayley's like, then don't. She's like, look, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sort of new here on SmackDown. I'm not even technically on SmackDown yet. I've been invited to all of these shows for some reason. I don't know why. I really don't want to lose my role here on SmackDown, so I just did as you said. I didn't want to mess anything up, and I realise now that by not doing anything, I mess everything up. I apologise, I'm sorry. And Bayley's like, I mean, I should have been able to win that match myself. I don't know where it really went wrong. I shouldn't need your help to beat Dakota Kai. Why can't I beat Dakota Kai? And Cora's like, you can, but you just need another step. I tell you what you do need, Bayley. You need a clear head. Which is why next week I've gone to Pierce. I'll get you a rematch with Dakota Kai. But this time, I wouldn't even be out there. Like, I know I didn't do anything, I just sort of cheated one for more support, that may be enough of a distraction. I don't want anything to do with this, this is all you. Go out there alone, I'll stay back here and watch. And Bayley's like, I mean, you don't have to do that. But I'm not going to turn down a free title match. So, listen to your own advice this time. And listen to my words, you know? I'm not going to say don't screw anything up. Because evidently you couldn't follow that simple advice. So I'm going to simply say, don't do anything. Leave me alone. And then Bayley walks out of the locker room and Cora's like, yeah, fair. 69, that's really better than I thought it would be. I guess Ember and Mia sort of carried. Mate, Katana also got a 60 though, so that's fair. The triple threat tag team match to determine who will face Charlotte and Jordan on Raw Night of Champions. I've dubbed it Raw Night of Champions, like you know how NXT and AEW do the TV specials, where it's a special episode of TV, but the subtitle is the name of an old pay-per-view. I'm taking that model. It's going to be Raw Night of Champions, and it's going to be, of course, Double Trouble 1. They're the hot new team, pinning Caden Carter. It's not elimination like it says it is. And yeah, Anne-Marie Porter and Kelsey Cook go in a Raw Night of Champions to face the Women's Tag Team Champions Charlotte and Jordan. But they're here tonight and they lay them out because they're the Queen, woo. And she stands tall over SmackDown with her belt in her hand going, woo. I've got this belt, I'm going to Money in the Bank and I'm going to whoop ass, woo. Etc. Here's another segment. We get a backstage, like, sit-down interview with Pat Mcafee. He's with the Alpha Academy, but no Coach Thatcher and Otis, which I'll explain why in a minute. He's like, Chad, back in Judgment Day, you came up short against the House of Black. And where did you really think you went wrong? And Kay was like, well, first of all, shush. But second of all, I don't know, Pat. The whole point of the Alpha Academy is that we grow as a group. And I guess on that night, me and my number one guy, Otis, just weren't the right combination of the Alpha Academy to get the job done. And you're probably wondering, where are Thatcher and Otis right now? Well, you see, they're back at SmackDown because we're having a rematch with House of Black tonight. But it's not going to be me and Otis, it's going to be Otis' team with Coach Thatcher, Tim. And we're going to see how that duo works, because there is a championship-winning duo somewhere in this team. We've just got to figure it out. And then Pat, quite rightfully, points out about the Creed brothers. And Gable's like, well, they're still learning, like, they're new here. Obviously, the whole plan is to grow the Creed brothers into the greatest tag team in WWE. But at this very moment, we're not entirely sure we're ready to set them in that slot right now. So, House of Black, I don't know which two members of the House of Black they're going to pick. But it can't be Alistair, because he's in the Fatal 4-Way, you know? So, should be interesting. See if Coach Thatcher and Otis can get the job done. Pat is our backstage correspondent. I went over this in Discord the other day. I've finalised my... I'm going to have my announcers all be 100 at announcing, because I think the game penalising matches for bad commentary is silly, so I'm just going to ignore it and make all of my announcers great. So it really is just like a headcanon thing who I want on commentary. So the SmackDown announce team is Maura Ranallo and Nigel McGuinness. Pat McAfee's there, like, correspondent man on the case. And Kayla is the backstage interviewer. Whereas Raw, I have Tom Phillips, and I'm going to sign and WWE name Caprice Coleman to be my colour commentator, because I've been listening to him on Rampage recently. I think he's really good. So we'll give him a shot. Tom Phillips and Caprice is the Raw announce team. Jimmy Smith is the backstage correspondent for Raw. And then Kevin Patrick is the backstage interviewer. For those of you who care about that shit. Like, it has no effect on actual gameplay, but it's just headcanon stuff. Whoa! 80 rated match. Jesus Christ, Mark Andrews is good. Fuck me, I might have to get rid of Morgan Webster and have Andrews just be a solo, you know. But it's Brody King and Mark Andrews is the duo with House of Black, who beat Fat Joe Notice. Brody King pins Fat Joe with a Gonzo bomb, and they make defense number 2 of the tag titles. 87 for Mark Andrews, 76 for Brody King, and a 78 for both the Alpha Academy boys. Very interesting that Mark Andrews is this good. He might have to be spotlighted a lot more. He might have to be in all these matches going forward, because, man. But also, this combination, not enough to get the job done, either. Maybe Otis is the problem, you know? I'd never say that because he's a king, but former WWE champion Otis, that is, as well. Triple Crown champion Otis. He's a United States title win away from a Grand Slam, you know? Well, this got a 90? But I rated Mandy. What do you mean this got a 90? The Toxic Lounge. It's not a talk show, per se. It's, you know, they have the actual Toxic Lounge in NXT, but this time it's in the ring. They're going to dim the lights. They're to sound the Toxic Lounge, Mandy, Gigi, and JC. And Mandy's like, for those of you who missed Judgment Day, you missed the arrival of the SmackDown Women's Division. The SmackDown Women's Division, we came in, we took out your favourites, we took out Io, we took out Kyrie, because, well, that's what we do. Now, I didn't really get a chance to formally introduce this to the world back at Judgment Day. I mean, obviously you know me. You remember Mandy Rose, you know, that hot blonde that was on the show last year, a year or so ago? Well, that's me, and I'm back, and I'm more dangerous than ever, you know? Of course, I've still been in your thoughts. You've been wondering, hey, where did Mandy go? Well, don't worry, ladies, because Mandy's back, but this time Mandy didn't come alone. To my left, we have the hottest rising star in the NXT Women's Division, the Hell's favourite harlot, Gigi Dolan. And then Gigi takes the mic, and she's like, yes, Mandy, we're here, and this is sure going to be the start of a wonderful domination of the Women's Division, made with toxic love. And she's like, to my right, the other fastest rising star of the NXT Women's Division, the something nickname JC Jane. And then JC takes the mic, like, you know, you say fastest rising stars, but I don't consider us rising stars, I consider us the present, because you must have heard the screams of pain that Kyrie and Io were giving off, and Kyrie had cake on her face, bless her. You're trying to wipe it off. So, they already know who we are, Mandy. And Mandy says, for those of you who don't know, this is not just toxic attraction, we are the attraction. Kyrie comes storming out from the back, no music or anything. She's just like angry that she got cake on her face and she wants to get revenge. And Io comes out and she's like, no, Kyrie, you can't do this alone. And then the two of them charge into the ring to fight Toxic Attraction in the Toxic Lounge. But they're outnumbered, you know. So who else to even the numbers but SmackDown's overarching lawful good presence, Utami Hayashishita. She's like the protector. She's like Xia Li's protector gimmick, but gets on television. And she evens the odds, sends Toxic Attraction retreating up the ramp. And they're like, nah, this isn't worth our time, ladies. Come on, move. We've got makeup and shit to do. And then Utami and Kyrie and Io go to leave. And then Sasha Banks comes out for her match with Toni Storm, her Money in the Bank qualifier. And she sort of crosses past a few times. She's like, look at you leeching onto any little bit of relevancy you can. It's not my fault that you're forgotten about and you're finished because I beat you at Judgment Day. Like, it's nothing to be embarrassed about, Utami. I promise. Everybody's been there. Maybe if you just keep at the grind, you know, one day in the future you'll be as good as me. But that day's not anytime soon, so get out, Little Miss Child. The real stars are here, and we're here to win and get Money in the Bank. Slight problem with that. Toni Storm beats Sasha Banks clean in 14:20 to qualify for Money in the Bank. Toni gets a 78 and a 93 for Sasha. Oops. So, Toni Storm joins the field. She's in with Nova, Nebula, and Charlotte Flair. And the men's field is Seth Rollins joining Tyler Breeze and Matt Riddle. So the field's coming along quite nicely for Money in the Bank. We know on Raw next week it's going to be... Actually, there's no qualifier on Raw next week. It's just Night Champions. But on SmackDown next week, it's going to be Happy Corbin. No, it's not. It's going to be LA Knight versus Kevin Owens. Then the week after that, it's going to be Keith Lee versus Happy Corbin. Also, next week is going to be Candice LeRae and Raquel Rodriguez. And over on Raw, I think we know the... No, we don't know the other qualifiers yet. Never mind. I'm talking out my ass. Speaking of Happy Corbin, here's the segment I made slight reference to earlier on. Corbin comes in, he goes, "Really, Pierce? Like, so after everything that I went through to get on the show because you were keeping me off the show on purpose, I won at the pay-per-view, but still no room for Happy Corbin?" And Pierce is going to go, "I mean, you're not going to believe me when I tell you, but I did have you two scheduled for a tag team match against Oney Lorcan and Ricochet tonight. But the problem is that Seth Rollins and Johnny Gargano, you know, that whole epic match we had to open the show, sort of went longer than we had allocated, and we also have the Fatal 4-Way main event, which we need to make sure it gets enough television time. So, unfortunately, Corbin, something had to be cut tonight, and it was your match." Corbin's like, "What do you mean it was mine? You couldn't have cut anything else. I'm the most important star on this roster, and you cut me." "Well, fine. When I beat Keith Lee in 2 weeks' time and qualify for Money in the Bank, then you'll realise how you're disrespecting the biggest star you have on this show." Pierce is like, "Okay, but until then, I'm sorry. All I can do is apologise and promise you a spot next week." Corbin's like, "You better keep that promise."
Wrestling. A man barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. Better than he was before. Better. Stronger. Faster. But what to do with all these leftover parts?
88 rated main event, which is good because Lince Dorado's in there, but 10 ratings worse than the opening match. But overall, this will be a phenomenal episode of SmackDown. Lince held his own, you know, but unfortunately somebody is in there to eat the fall. Braun Breaker, the United States Champion, pins Lince Dorado in 14-19 to earn his shot at WWE Champion Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank. Braun gets a 74, 85 for Nakamura, 87 for Alistair, and a 71 for Lince. Hey, Alistair scored the same as Mark Andrews. Maybe that should be the tag team for House of Black. But Braun wins. He's celebrating when out comes the Tribal Chief. 6-minute segment, just his entrance. He comes to the ring, he gets in Braun's face, and they sort of have a stare down. Like, present versus future. You know, the man dubbed the successor, the next top star in WWE against the current Tribal Chief. And Roman just holds his WWE title up high as the little thing pops up in the bottom right corner to, like, end the show. But Braun would then hold his US title up high. And Roman sort of looks... He's got conflicted. On one hand, he's like, how dare he try and disrespect me by hoisting his belt up in my face? But also, on the other hand, he's like, I kind of respect that from this kid. He got guts. So, Braun and Roman Reigns... happening at Money in the Bank. One day could be happening in the main event of WrestleMania, but for now, it's the main event of Money in the Bank. 92 rated SmackDown. That is what we call a banger show, ladies and gentlemen. And we've got another even banger show lined up next week with Kevin Owens versus LA Knight, Bayley versus Dakota Kai, and Raquel versus Candice. And yeah, let's move on to the Cruiserweight World Cup on Velocity. Cover some Velocity. It's the second fixtures of Group C and D, and we start off with Ricochet, who lost against Dudley Davis last time, against Jiro, who beat Ari Sterling. So Ricochet picks up his first win. He beats Jiro, so now they're both on 3, you see. Ricochet gets a 92 and a 31 for Jiro. That is a banger match, to be fair. 74, Ricochet did a good job carrying Jiro to a good one. And then at 81, Big Dudders, he scores a 90 to Ari's 54. But Big Dudders gets another dub. Dudley the Vice on Ari Sterling, who I believe... No, he's not eliminated because he could beat Ricochet. And... Dudley could beat Jiro, yeah. So he could still get through based on like head-to-heads and shit. but I don't know how that would work because it would be a rock, paper, scissors, you know. Oh well. But there'd be like a fucking tiebreaker triple threat on SmackDown or something. It's fine. 90 for Dudley and a 54 for Ari is the main thing. 81, good match. We then move on to Group D. Oni, who lost to Tozawa in the first round. Finally, throw him up. He finally picked up a dub. Probably for the first time since he was World Heavyweight Champion. Oni gets a 75 and a 56 for August Grey, former A-list member. And then the final match, speaking of Tozawa, him and Wesley. The time limit expires, they draw. 74 for Tozawa, 70 for Tozawa, 66 for Wes. And yeah, the two winners from the last round, drawings. Let's see what that does to Group C and D in the tournament. Group C is the one I was just talking about a minute ago. Kind of still all open, but Ricochet has Sterling, who's got 0 points. And Jiro has Dudley, who's unbeaten. So you imagine that Dudley and Ricochet would win, but you know, anything can happen in the WWE Maggle, so... This group is a lot more interesting. August has been eliminated because he can't get 4 points. But he can stop Tozawa from qualifying if he beats him for no reason. And then Oni beats Wesley. Or if Oni and Wesley draw. Well, no, because Tozawa would go through ahead of Oni, you see, because he beat him. This is probably confusing to a lot of people. But I'm just working out in my head, you know. I do have roughly the whole thing planned out, but individual stuff like this is even news to me. So, like, yeah, August has got Tozawa, so you'd imagine Tozawa would beat him, and then, again, anything talking about the WWE. So, yeah. That's how them groups go, and the show gets a 76, which is pretty fine. And, yeah. I'll see you next time for episode 253, which will be Raw Night of Champions. See you then.